Before looking at the chess games of Napoleon Bonaparte, this is the picture of Napoleon. And in the intro, I have already said much about Napoleon Bonaparte, and I believe that he needs no introduction. So if you know little about the history, you also know about Napoleon Bonaparte. But I believe in the old days, the battles were very interesting. So I'm a pacifist. I don't like wars. I don't like battles. I hate weapons. But interestingly, in the history, battles were fought just like in the chessboard. From the ancient times until the late 19th century, battles were fought just like chess. So in the history, they were fighting head to head, like two lines, like in the chessboard. So white is a line and black is a line, and they are fighting in the middle of the battlefield. So maybe that's why they called chess the miniature battle. In the historical battles, they were fighting the battle in the middle of the battlefield, two lines slowly walking in the middle and facing head to head. And chess is the same, isn't it? The kings are representing the generals, the knights are representing the cavalry, and the pawns are representing the infantry, and they are fighting. And one of those lines breaks, the battle is over. It's that simple. It's very similar with the historical battles. And let me show you some historical battle pictures. And I don't know if you are interested about history like I do, but this is the picture of the famous battle of Poltava. So this is the picture of the Poltava battle, which was fought between the Russian Empire and the Swedish Empire. Anyway, that's the details about the history. But in this picture, if you look carefully, there are two lines, and this is a very realistic picture, by the way. Realistic painting. The artist who painted this picture saw the battle, and then objectively, he drew the battle very accurately. And anyway, if you look carefully, you see two lines. One line is the Russian line. So these soldiers are the Russians, and the opposite side is the Swedish side. And this is just like chess. So the infantry is representing the pawns, and the cavalry is representing the knights. And if you think the opposite way, and you can think that the historical battles has nothing to do with chess, I respect your opinion, but I think it was very similar and very interesting to see that. And let's check out another picture about the historical battles, which looks just like the chessboard. So I believe this was also a very accurate painting about how the historical battles were fought. So as you can see, there is two lines. There are infantry, the cavalry, the generals, just like the chessboard. And they are fighting head to head, just like chess, in the middle of the board. Or we should say middle of the battlefield. Well, anyway, I think the old battles were looking just like the chessboard. And in 1000 years ago, when they invented chess, they say they created this game to improve the generals' skills in the battlefield. So when they are playing chess, their tactical knowledge and strategy was improving in the battlefield. So the game of chess was found for the practice of the generals, for improving their tactical levels. So let's get back to the chess. So okay, let's shortly check out the first chess game of Napoleon Bonaparte in the archives. So this game was played in 1804 in France, in March 20, and his opponent is a very interesting person, Madame de Remusat. And who was Madame de Remusat? I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, by the way. Well, she was serving Napoleon Bonaparte's wife, Empress Josephine, as a lady. So she was working for Napoleon Bonaparte's wife. And also interestingly, in her memories, in her notes, maybe she was taking notes to her diary, who knows. Well, she says that Napoleon Bonaparte was not playing good at chess. He was not a good chess player. That's what she says. And also sometimes Napoleon Bonaparte was making some illegal moves. So as an emperor, he was doing anything he wants. And when they are playing chess with each other, there were some other people in the room watching the game. And interestingly, everyone stayed silent. That's what she says about Napoleon Bonaparte. So when the emperor makes some illegal moves, everyone stayed silent. Maybe the other people in the room was afraid of the emperor, who knows. So anyway, let's check out this very interesting chess game of Napoleon Bonaparte. Actually, he played a very accurate and a beautiful chess game. So Napoleon Bonaparte, who is playing with the white pieces, starts the game with playing knight to c3, e5, knight to f3. Probably he was making some random moves in the opening. He's not playing some opening trap or some theory. He's not playing with the theory of chess. Probably he is playing these moves, how he feels to. So we have knight to f3 by Napoleon Bonaparte, d6 by Madame de Remusat, e4, f5, h3, f takes on e4, knight takes on e4, knight to c6, knight from f to g5, and then we have d5 attacking the knight. And Napoleon Bonaparte played the most accurate move, and he played queen to h5. That's check. And how to defend? We have g6, if something like king to d7, then queen to f7, if defending with the queen, queen takes on d5. And black is losing, black is getting crushed in this position. So queen to h5 by Napoleon Bonaparte, g6, blocking, queen to f3, threatening checkmate, defending with the knight. So if d takes on e4, queen to f7, checkmate. So that's why Madame de Remusat is defending with the knight. Knight to f6, check, king to e7. And Napoleon Bonaparte captures the pawn. Knight takes on d5, king to d6, and then knight to e4, check. Well, in this position, the better move was king to d7. But Madame de Remusat captures the knight, king takes on d5. And after this move, there is forced checkmate in 3 moves. And interestingly, Napoleon Bonaparte solved the forced checkmate. So this proves that Napoleon Bonaparte was actually very smart at chess. Well, he played bishop to c4, the most accurate move, sacrificing the bishop. King takes on c4. What a hungry king, eating every pieces one by one. And if you don't know, in some other languages, they say not capture or takes, they say eats, which is very funny. So in English they say takes, like king takes knight. Or let's say queen takes on e4, for example. But in some other languages they are saying eats, like bishop eats knight, rook eats pawn, or for instance queen eats knight. So we can easily say that king eats on c4, a hungry king. And then Napoleon Bonaparte played queen to b3, check, king to d4. And then the emperor played queen to d3, and that's checkmate. What a beautiful checkmate by Napoleon Bonaparte. And look at the king. The king is in the 4th rank. What an adventurous journey for the king. And who knows, maybe Madame de Remusat was losing intentionally against Napoleon Bonaparte. Maybe she was afraid. Anyway, so let's check out the other chess game of Napoleon Bonaparte in the archives. And that game is also a very interesting game. So this is the second game of the Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. And this game is even more interesting than the first game of Bonaparte. And in this chess game, Napoleon Bonaparte is playing with a chess player named the Turk. Why the Turk? Well, actually this was a chess automation. And in the history of chess, the Turk was the first chess playing machine. So probably Napoleon Bonaparte was in the campaign and he was preparing for a huge battle. And while he was preparing for a battle, he went to Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna. And in there he met with the Turk, the chess playing automation, and they have designed this machine to entertain the Empress of Austria, and now the machine is ready for entertain the Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. So it's obvious that for that time in 1809, we are talking about 1809. So at that time, this was a miracle. The machine was wooden, but shaking his head and moving the pieces all by himself. But of course, a small man who was a chess genius for its time was controlling the machine secretly under the table. But still, it was a very interesting invention. And Napoleon Bonaparte played a very bad chess game. He made lots of blunders, lots of mistakes. So for a person who is living in the early 19th century, this machine was simply an unbelievable machine. So maybe that's why Napoleon Bonaparte got distracted and played some very inaccurate moves. And let's quickly check this very beautiful chess game. Actually, this game is a very instructive chess game, and you will see why after the game. So Napoleon Bonaparte, of course, playing with the white pieces, starts the game with playing e4, e5, and then queen to f3, developing the queen before developing the other pieces is a very bad idea at chess. And maybe he's trying to see that how the machine is going to respond. Well, the machine responded very accurately. Machine played knight to c6, bishop to c4, knight to f6, defending the checkmate threat. Well, Napoleon Bonaparte was trying to checkmate the Turk. That would be the fool's mate. But the Turk is defending very well. Knight to f6, knight to e2, very bad move. And the machine played bishop to c5, a3, and then d6. Napoleon Bonaparte castled, but here comes bishop to g4, and already it looks very ugly for Napoleon Bonaparte. We have queen to d3, and then knight to h5, h3 attacking the bishop, bishop takes knight, queen takes on e2, knight to f4 attacking the queen, queen to e1, knight to d4. The Turk is attacking on c2, defending with the bishop, bishop to b3, and then in this position, the Turk played the most accurate move. Well, the Turk played knight takes on h3, that's check, and Napoleon Bonaparte didn't capture the knight. He played king to h2. Well, if g takes on h3, we have knight to f3, forking the king and the queen. King to g2, knight takes queen. So that's why the Turk is sacrificing the knight. And also that's why Napoleon Bonaparte didn't capture the knight and he played king to h2, but then queen to h4, g3 attacking the queen, knight to f3, that's check, forking the king and the queen. We have king to g2. If, let's say, king goes to h1, we have queen to h5 and there is no defense. If saving the queen, knight to f4, checkmate. So after knight to f3, Napoleon Bonaparte played king to g2 and then knight takes queen. And according to the legend, in this position, Napoleon Bonaparte made an illegal move somewhere in this position, and the Turk, the chess automation, strangely destroyed the pieces by hitting all of the pieces with its wooden arm, scattered the pieces all around. The Turk was angry because of that illegal move, so they calmly reset the board and the game continued. So we have knight takes on e1, rook takes knight, and then queen to g4, saving the queen. d3, bishop takes on f2, attacking the rook, rook to h1. And after this move, the Turk captures the pawn, queen takes on g3, king to f1. And maybe in this position, Napoleon Bonaparte needs to resign. But in the life, there's a type of people who doesn't like to lose whatever he does, so they can do anything for not to lose. Well, I have met lots of people like that, and Napoleon Bonaparte was one of them. So he doesn't like to lose, and he always wants to win in life, whatever he does, and that's the same when he is playing chess, he needs to win. But sadly, unfortunately for Napoleon Bonaparte, he is losing at this position. But the game continued. Bonaparte didn't resign. We have king to f1, bishop to d4, king to e2, queen to g2 by the Turk, check, king to d1, and then the chess machine captures the rook, queen takes on h1, king to d2, queen to g2, king to e1, knight to g1. So after knight to g1, the Turk is threatening checkmate, queen to e2, well, defending with the knight, knight to c3, and then the Turk captures the knight, bishop takes on c3, that's check, pawn takes bishop, and then the Turk played queen to e2, and that's checkmate. Napoleon Bonaparte, turn apart. What a beautiful chess game. And now let's check out the third game of Bonaparte, which was also very interesting. And a brilliant chess game, absolutely a magnificent chess game. Let's check that out. And let's quickly check out the last chess game of Napoleon Bonaparte in the archives. And in this game, Napoleon Bonaparte, once again, has the white pieces, and his opponent is one of his generals, Henry Bertrand. And this game was played in 1820, when Napoleon Bonaparte was exiled to St. Helena Island, a remote island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, close to South Pole. A very small, forgotten island, and Napoleon Bonaparte was living a lonely life in that island. But one of his friends was Henry Bertrand. He was a very loyal general to Napoleon Bonaparte, and he accompanied Napoleon to Elba in 1814 also. And when Napoleon escaped the island in Elba in 1815, he held a command in the Waterloo battle, the famous battle. After the defeat in Waterloo, he accompanied Napoleon to St. Helena Island. And interestingly, he did not return to France until Napoleon Bonaparte's death. He waited until that time. So after Bonaparte died in St. Helena, only then Henry Bertrand returned to France. So he was a very loyal soldier and a very close friend to Napoleon Bonaparte. So this game was played in the house of Napoleon Bonaparte in St. Helena in 1820. The Longwood House, the name of the house is Longwood House. And before starting to the game, this is the picture of Henry Bertrand. So let's check out this very beautiful chess game. So Napoleon Bonaparte, who has the white pieces, starts the game with playing e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, d4, knight takes on d4, knight takes knight, e takes on d4, bishop to c4, bishop to c5, c3, queen to e7, and Napoleon Bonaparte castled, queen to e5, f4, attacking the queen, d takes on c3, before defending the queen. Henry Bertrand captures the pawn, that's check, king to h1, and then c takes on b2. So if pawn takes queen, pawn takes rook with promoting a queen. And in this position, Napoleon Bonaparte played a very brilliant move. Well, he played bishop takes on f7, sacrificing the bishop. But we have king to d8. Well, of course, if king takes bishop, we have f takes on e5, pawn takes queen, and that's check. So after king to e8, bishop takes on b2. And black needs to resign. This is completely losing for black. So this is why Napoleon Bonaparte is sacrificing the bishop, but we have king to d8. And then f takes on e5. But then b takes on a1 with promoting a queen. And in this position black is a rook up, and materially Napoleon Bonaparte is losing. But Bonaparte calmly captures the knight with the bishop, bishop takes on g8. And Henry Bertrand didn't capture the bishop and he played bishop to e7. Well, if rook takes bishop, we have queen to b3, attacking the rook. So if rook to f8, then rook takes on f8, bishop takes rook, queen to f7, how to defend? If queen takes on b1, then queen takes bishop, that's checkmate. So if bishop to c5, then bishop to g5, bishop to e7, queen takes on e7, checkmate. So the other possible continuation, if rook to h8, then bishop to b2, and this is trapping the queen. And this was, ladies and gentlemen, a brilliant play, a brilliant strategy by Napoleon Bonaparte. So this is why we have bishop to e7, but then queen to b3, again threatening to play bishop to b2. So a5, a desperate move, but Napoleon Bonaparte didn't play bishop to b2. And Napoleon Bonaparte played rook to f8. What a move! Well, Bonaparte is sacrificing the rook. Bishop takes on f8, what else? And maybe in this position, Napoleon Bonaparte remembered the good old days when he was commanding huge armies and winning battles, running after glory. Those were the good old days for Napoleon Bonaparte, when he had the power and he was the most powerful man in the world for that time. So this was a glorious move by Napoleon Bonaparte, and he played bishop to g5. How to defend? Bishop to e7. And then Napoleon Bonaparte captured the bishop. Well, there is a forced checkmate in this position. King takes on e7. And then here comes queen to f7. That's check. King to d8. Queen to f8 by Napoleon Bonaparte. And this was checkmate at move 18. Well, Napoleon Bonaparte checkmated his close friend, his companion, and one of his marshals, Henry Bertrand. So this game was played in St. Helena in 1820. So Bonaparte also died in St. Helena, in that island. And this was the last chess game of Napoleon Bonaparte, the last recorded chess game of Bonaparte. But probably Napoleon Bonaparte played many games in that island because he had nothing to do. He was writing his memories, he was taking a diary, he was talking with his friends and eating good food. But unfortunately, he had nothing left to do. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. And I hope to see you next time. Take care.